Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 134.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cashflow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
Okay, and welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Massey, and I'm glad that you are here because here's the thing. When you go somewhere, you never know who you're going to meet and what's going to happen to you, and most importantly, what you're going to learn. I've said it before and I say it again. Anytime you go anywhere, every networking event, every seminar, every time you leave your house, you should be after one thing, one new idea, and hopefully one new person. You never know when you're going to meet the person that has the ability to introduce you to the people you need to know to make things happen. And what's interesting is that today, man, we have an individual who I had the pleasure of meeting at a completely different event, was not intending on meeting, tons and tons of people, but I just couldn't resist. I'm like, I've got to share this guy with you guys because you don't understand how he's going to be able to help you. He's probably going to put a smile on your face at least once. And that's the thing that I love is you can tell when an entrepreneur is excited about what it is that they get to do. It's because they say it with a smile all the time. And half the time you're like, why is he so excited? Why is she always happy? It's because we're living very, very close to our values, and that's very, very key to making it all work. Today's guest started a personal training since 1994. Now, for those of you listening, you may not have been born yet, and I understand that. Here's the point. It's a long time ago, but he specializes in helping people overcome injuries and pain. Now, if you've ever had injuries or pain, you know good and well that that's a long, can be challenging and painful process. So Rick Kaselj is his name, if you were wondering, and he loved what he did, but he wanted to help more people. Now, how often is that the case? You like what you do, but you want to help more people, and you're looking for a way to do it. And here's the key word. He wanted to earn what he felt he was worth. I know you've had that feeling at least once. The question I have for you is, what have you done about it? And most importantly, we're going to learn it from the man himself, because today he's created well over 125 different products, built a huge email list, and has been promoted by some of the biggest affiliates in the health and fitness industry. And on a daily basis, hear this number, helps well over 80,000 people. Do me a favor and welcome Mr. Rick Kaselj. Rick, you there?
Hello. Yeah, I'm here.
I'm glad that you indeed are here. Thank you for taking the time, investing here with the Cashflow Diary audience.
No worries.
Is it snowing up there in, Canada yet?
It snowed for about 2 weeks, and now it's kind of warmed up a little bit, and next week it'll snow again.
When you say warmed up, you mean like what, 20 degrees?
About that. Yeah. Yeah. But it's good because when it's cold, that's when I'm most productive, and it's when my business does the best.
Really?
So I'm happy with that, and I can share the story on why I love to work like in an igloo or an Arctic environment. So when my family leaves for the day, I make sure I turn off all the heat, close the registers, so it's Arctic cold in my office.
This is awesome already. Now, before we go down and figure out why you want to be an Eskimo part-time, what we want to figure out, though, is who Rick is, how you got started. Because here's the thing. Many of you have heard me say this before, is that I look at today's entrepreneurs as like yesterday's superheroes. We go around, we try to solve people's problems. We do so for a profit. And then we try to scale and help more people and do all those things. And occasionally, we put on capes and tights and have some fun with it. But every entrepreneur that I am aware of has an origin story. Every superhero has an origin story. So what we would really love to know is, Rick, before you were helping 80,000 people from 137 countries. Who were you? What were you doing?
Including Antarctica. I have a client in Antarctica. Not many people can say that. I'm very proud of that.
Wow.
Now, looking at, I've listened to a couple of your interviews, so the last few days I've been preparing and trying to think of like what would be my origin story, and I think it starts. Thankfully, one of the best things my parents instilled in me was like insane hard work. And as I often say, it's like inhuman amount of hard work, and not just physical work, but like emotional work and investing the time and the energy and doing whatever it takes to accomplish the goal. So I think having that characteristic kind of led into everything else. And then the next step ended up being, when I was in high school, I had this just urge of more. And, looking at, my friends, looking at, the circle of friends that my parents, traveled in or walked in or connected with, we kind of grew up in a, middle class, family home. My parents were both laborers. All of their friends were laborers. They came from the former Eastern European country called Yugoslavia. And they came over here and they worked insanely hard, but, the circle that I was surrounded with wasn't exactly, big dreamers and wanted more. So I started searching, and I went into the library because I'm a very cheap person and I did not want to spend money. So the library had all kinds of books, and I tried to take out books and read books, and I realized I hated reading. And then there was, in the corner of the library, there was this one kind of like magazine rack. And this magazine rack was full of cassette tapes. So I went and I started looking at this magazine rack of tapes, and I ended up, grabbing a bunch of these tapes that Anthony Robbins did. And what it was he would do these interviews with other successful people. So I had this old, ugly Walkman. It's kind of like a very massive, gigantic iPod. And I would put these tapes in, and I would walk and listen to these tapes and listen to these interviews. And these interviews just captured me that there was more out there. There was more that people can accomplish. There was more that people could reach. And I ended up getting addicted to these tapes. So in this one library, I went through the whole magazine rack of these tapes and Anthony Robbins, and started listening to everybody else, Zig Ziglar, and the whole stack. And what I found out was, within my area, there was 20 different libraries. So I would take the bus and go to different libraries in order to check out different tapes. And so pretty much what I did was I brainwashed myself to realize that there was more. There was more out there, and that I could accomplish whatever I wanted to. And that's kind of where it all started, just brainwashing myself with these cassette tapes, with my Walkman, walking around university or college in this ugly Nike's tracksuit with white, blue, and green trim, with these big headphones. You know how it's really cool now to have these big headphones that go around your ears? Before, they were like black like foam. And I would walk around the college with this intense look because I was listening to the words of the speaker, and I would walk around the school. So between classes, I was getting my real education, which was like expanding my horizons and seeing what it took to succeed and what was possible.
Now, I'm, other than having a very bad mental image right now of you in a Nike tracksuit, I find something that's very common is that many entrepreneurs have this awakening moment, what you called that there was more. I know for myself, it came in the form of the book Cashflow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki. No one had told me that there was something other than being an employee before. And I'm like, well, why not? Because that sounds like it's more of a fit for me than what I'm currently doing. And I find it really, really interesting that well, I should also back up and say, for those of you who don't know, a cassette tape is what we had before CDs, which is what we had before MP3s, okay? So, because I know for some, they're like, what is that? Is that some new thing I got to go look up? No, it's just, if you can find one, good luck. If you can find something to play it on, even better. However, those things just don't exist like that. Anyway, my question to you is, you said real education. You're on a college campus. I would love to get the idea of what you meant by and mean by real education, because many of us, we were told to go to school, get good grades, get a job, go to these higher learning institutions, and I would love to hear your perspective.
I mean, I always, when I listen to these tapes, they kept saying that, you need to get like a technical skill. So I viewed school as a technical skill. I was learning a technical skill, and I was going to school for kinesiology or human kinetics. So I was learning all about the body and how it moved. And I viewed that as a technical skill. But if I wanted to, reach, bigger goals than just having a job or working for someone, I needed to learn and understand bigger things. And what I needed to understand most likely was like the skills when it related to business and when it related to marketing. And a lot of the tapes related to that, related to motivation, business, marketing, communication, energy. It all related to that stuff. So while I was at school, yes, memorizing muscles and how they moved and biomechanics and all this stuff, the other education was from those tapes where I was learning, what were the characteristics and skills that those really super successful people that were making $1 million a year, $1 million a month, $1 million a day, like what were they doing? What skills did they have?
Totally. Now, with that being the case, are you trying to tell me that at university they didn't tell you how to do that?
Well, university. I mean, I'm a fan. You need to learn some sort of technical skill, and that's what I believe in. You need to have some sort of skill. Mm-hmm. Not saying in college or university is one way of getting that, but I think there's more than just getting technical skill. And really, if you go to school, or even if you go to a technical institute and get a skill like a plumber or an electrician, you're really only going to make so much. You're really only going to make so much working for someone. And that's cool. There are days where I'm like, I really would like, some days I'm like, to my wife, I'm like, man, I wish I was a plumber. And I just worked like 9 to 5.
Right.
And I went to work and I worked half asleep and I finished at 5 and I would lay on the couch and drink beer. And my wife is always like, you would go crazy. You want way more than that. And that's what it is. I want more. I want more.
Yeah. Well, I agree because I think every entrepreneur goes through those moments like, what would it be like to be my own employee? Maybe that would be better. You just have those fits of, going back to Egypt, as they say, just instead of, wanting to push forward. So interestingly though, like most superheroes, they have that transformation moment. They have that moment, where they're bit by the spider or they realize they can make a difference. What I would love to know is when you got the idea, how did the idea formulate in your head that, what I can do is I can help people in Antarctica with their pain and injuries. I would love to hear how that idea got planted and grew.
Once we go back to these cassette tapes, and the cassette tapes are, so we have like, I think it was like 8 tracks, records, and then there was cassettes, CD player, right, and then we start going to MP3s. So that's like the evolution of things. Now, so where did it once again, it came to those cassette tapes, and there was 2 things that all ultra successful people had in common. They wrote and they presented in front of groups. Now, I'm a horrible writer. I mean, I'm a horrible writer. But this is the thing. You can find a lot of very affordable people that are very, very smart that can edit your writing.
Yeah. I'm so happy about that one too.
Yeah. But then the second thing is what I like to do, not what I like to do, but I knew that probably what would be the path to the easiest path to success was if I got better at talking in front of people. Now, it didn't come naturally or easy to me. Way back in grade 4, we had to do a presentation in front of our grade 4 class. Now, I actually, chose not to do the task of doing a presentation in front of the group. So I got a D, or fail. Well, my mother found out. So this Eastern European mother, where parenting by yelling and screaming was her technique. I mean, it led to where I am now. But there was when she found out from the teacher, there was hell to be paid. Now, interesting enough, the presentation was on esteem. So I was terrified. It was easier for me to take the fail than to actually get in front of this group of like 15, 20 classmates and present on esteem. So I ended up doing it. I ended up getting a C, but that ended up starting it. So I knew in order to succeed, I had to get better at writing, and I needed to present in front of people. So I started to do whatever I could to get in front of people and present. And I was absolutely terrified. The night before, I would be sweating and worrying, and I couldn't sleep. But I knew it's something that I needed to get better at, and getting in front of people and presenting and just learning how to communicate and entertain in front of an audience. And so I ended up doing more and more of that and sought out opportunities to present in front of groups. And now, I think I've lost count. 200 times I've presented in front of groups to 6,000, 7,000 people. And then you get better at it, and you get better at it. And that makes the writing easier, because then I can talk to a camera, or I can talk to a person like this and record it and then turn it into written content that someone a lot smarter than me in the area of writing edits that and makes it sound like English.
Right. Especially the makes it sound like English part. I think you and I operate in very similar modalities, because I do the same thing. Most of our stuff is either video or audio, because that's what's easiest for Jay. And then we work through all those other mediums, by leveraging the best skill sets of others. So speaking of this leveraging of skill sets of others, one of the popular thought processes is that, if I'm going to be an entrepreneur, I got to do it all myself. And I guess one of the things I'm curious is how do you run an online business? In fact, we should probably give them an idea of what your business looks like today. And the question I'm really asking is, how do you execute all of these things to be able to serve that many people on any given day?
Okay, we'll take a little bit of a step back. So I was working in like a physical therapy clinic with people one-on-one. So I was helping people one-on-one. I wanted to help more people, and I wanted to increase my revenue. So what I started doing was teaching other health and fitness professionals what I did. So I taught courses. So I helped more. So I was increased my revenue by doing that. I taught other people, like my competitors, and they ended up helping more people. Then the next step was I wanted to help even more people. So I wanted to bypass the trainers. And so I started communicating directly to the consumer or customer. And that ended up growing my business. So now what I do is I've taken that one-on-one with people and I've moved it into an online setting where I communicate with people, educate, empower, motivate, when it comes to what to do about overcoming injuries and pain. So now how my business looks is, I communicate. I pretty much boils down into two things, the 2 C's. Every day I need to connect with my list and I need to create content. So the connection, C, can be connecting with my list, connecting with affiliates, making a connection with another person. So it's all connecting with people. And the second C is content. Content can be video, interview like this, something written, creating another product. So every day I focus on those 2 C's. And my message is always, you can overcome your injury and pain. And a lot of people are pulled down and feel that they have to stop what they're doing, or stop what they love doing because of their injury and pain. And it's not the case. You can overcome it and be even better than you were before. And I help people through various media modes, and that's like written, auditory like this, video, products, books, DVDs. So that's what I do. And then, so I end up being the face of the business, and in the back end, what you need to do, every entrepreneur wants to do everything. They think the biggest weakness that every entrepreneur has is I can do it better than anyone else. And it's totally true. And I'm not looking for someone else to do it perfect or better than me. I want someone to do like 80% as good as me. And that's fine. Most stuff, if it's 80% as good as me, that's great. That's good enough. And I'll do the most important things that leverage my business the most. And all those other things other people can do. And then how to do it, I mean, really, every day you need to ask yourself, do I really need to be doing this? Can someone else be doing it 80% as good as me? Even though it might take them 2 or 3 times longer to do, that's fine. Because if you can take your to-do list from 300 down to like 5, you're way more productive, and you're going to help more people. It'll help your life a lot more. You'll have more energy, and just give someone else or other people those 295 things that you should be doing. So I end up trying. I am almost. I'm trying to think of an analogy what I am, but you're kind of a distributor. Like, you just kind of throw stuff to other people and you get them to take care of it. And what ends up helping really well is trying to put together processes. So you might go through it once, and then you get it to give it to someone else to fumble through. And the first time they'll do an okay job. The second time they'll do a better job. Third time they'll have mastered it. And then you leave them alone.
Yes, stress on the leave them alone part. The funny thing is, I was just having this conversation with my executive assistant yesterday, and I was remarking, I was like, there's only one of me, but yet I can manage to keep all of you guys busy. This is interesting. How is that possible? And she just went on to explain how, there may be one of you, but there's so many ideas. There's so much stuff that comes out that we've got to go execute. And I'm like, yeah. And then she said, she's like, as soon as it's out of your head, Jay, you think it's done. No. That's not how it works. I'm like, oh, surprise. It is what it is. But these are all very, very valid points to making that happen. So tell me, if you would, please, what was it like the day when you tell your wife, hey, here's what I want to do? Because sometimes the challenge for many entrepreneurs is facing that spouse or significant other, or going, you know what? I want to write my first offer, honey. I want to do my business. I want to build something. And that conversation doesn't always go well. But so I'm just kind of curious as to how it went for you.
Okay. Well, I just want to expand on my last point a little bit more.
Oh, by all
means. It's insanely important that entrepreneurs get used to the fact of delegating stuff.
Oh, go.
And the
you
easiest
can say that
thing
again. Just repeat that over and over. If you didn't hear it, he's going to repeat it. And then when he's done repeating it, you can rewind it and do it again.
It is like essential for your success to delegate, to learn how to delegate, because it'll teach you how to delegate, that you don't need to do everything. You'll end up getting used to recruiting people, because you're only going to go so far by yourself. You need a team behind you, even if it is like someone that checks your email and responds to customer support. I mean, but that's super valuable. And the best person you can start off with is like getting some sort of assistant, virtual assistant, executive assistant, even if they help you like 1 hour a week or like 2 hours a week, just to filter through the email and customer support. That'll get you started, because you need to be a talent scout, see who are good people to add to your team. You need to get used to delegating, and you need to cut down your to-do list, because 300. Jay, you're no different. I'm quite sure you've got a massive to-do list. But when my to-do list is like 3 to 5, I can do way better than when it's 300. It's like it weighs you down when it's so big. And when you can distribute it off to someone else, it helps so much. And then you see how more productive you are.
Right.
And the more that you can get done, the more you can help people, and the more you get rewarded for it. Okay.
Well, hold on that before we go there. And that's one of the things that I would not function without it. I mean, many people know, or maybe they don't know, and they're about to learn, that when it comes to holding a hammer or putting a nail or even changing a light bulb in my own house, I struggle to physically successfully, keyword, change a light bulb. There have been times where I've tried to change a light bulb and I end up breaking the socket, okay? But yet, because of the team, I have the ability to go do rehabs on very large complexes across many different states and all this other stuff because of these very same skill sets that Rick is talking about right now. And as far as managing the to-do list, my number one secret, here's what I do and here's what I give to all of you guys. Ask yourself this question. Does what I'm doing right now earn, and I started at 500, but you can increase the number as it makes sense. I started at 500 and I said, does what I'm doing right now earn or create at least $500 of value per hour? If it doesn't create that, then I don't need to be the one doing it. And when you start thinking that way, your to-do list gets down to 3 things really fast. And what's cool is if you're focused on those 3 things and creating even something like $500 an hour, you are now in a position to be able to bring on as many people as you possibly could ever want or need to be able to execute the vision that you're looking for. So I hope you heard what he said, because it is the secret. I couldn't do even this podcast without it. It wouldn't happen. There are too many places and touch points of value and things that we're working to create to help that without the team, who knows? I might be that one customer in Antarctica.
Yeah. No, maybe to give people like a tangible way of seeing that. And I'm quite sure you track, and I track my numbers. And one number I track is how much revenue I make per hour. So it's how much money comes into my business. And then I divide that number by, I could do like 52 weeks. And then I divide that number again by 5. So 5 days a week. And then I divide that number again by 8. So 8 hours a day. So I can see how much money I am making an hour. And if the task is less than that, or if the task that I want to do does not equal that number, then I have to give it to someone else. Yep. And that really demonstrates it. It's like I see the number every day and it's like, okay, if I can get someone else to do it for a lot less than my daily number or daily hourly number, then I shouldn't be doing it.
Correct. And that's exactly how we do it. And what's interesting is that I actually take the extra step of breaking it down, because the real estate functions completely separate. And that way I can manage each side of the house, is what I like to call it, separately, to make sure that they're both growing appropriately and that I'm only doing actions on each side of the house as they need to be. So there are many ways of getting to your number, but you got to get there nonetheless, so that you're not making that happen. Mm-hmm. You want to get the most out of your time. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I think now we're talking about my wife. We're moving. Oh,
yes. Absolutely.
I don't have a nightmare horror story about my wife. Fine. Probably the reason why I married my wife was she was supportive of my crazy ideas. Mm. So there was one, my largest moment of stupidity was I thought it would be really cool, it goes back. My friend, he hiked a lot, and his dad took him to this park, and they hiked, and they came to this trail. And he said, son, this trail goes from here, Canada, all the way to Mexico. Well, that damn idea stuck in his head. So one day he's like, hey, Rick, it'd be cool. It'd be cool if we walked to Mexico from Canada. And I let my girlfriend know at the time, which now is my wife. And she said, sure, that'd be a great idea. So I went and I walked, 3,500 miles over 5 months. And she was supportive of that fact while I walked from, San Diego up and over the mountains, Sierra Nevada mountain range, Cascade mountain range, and dropped into Canada. So she was always incredibly supportive. So, and the second thing that was very valuable for her, or very valuable for me, was she focused me, because I'm kind of like, I'm not a laser. I'm kind of like an explosion, like anarchy everywhere. And so she laser focuses me. So those are two really good skills. But one person I had to overcome is my mother. So my mother to this day now feels I need to go out and get a job. And my wife keeps telling her that there isn't any job out there that will pay Rick enough to work for them. So it's really like overcoming that with the barrier of my mother, because my mother really pushed me into school. That's kind of what they were taught: get a good education and get a good job. And I wanted more. And entering this world of kinesiology or human kinetics, I mean, she didn't even understand what it was. She didn't even know if there was work after getting going to school for that. And then teaching her, that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and that I wanted to have my own job, and that I wanted to do this internet thing and have an online business. It was always a challenge, with her. And I think the message is, you need to kind of stay focused on that, the goal that you want and that lifestyle that you want. And you can't listen to the people that are pulling you down. And that might be your wife, that might be your mother. And you need to surround yourself with people that will end up supporting that vision, that dream. And so my wife was always supportive, and I had two other friends that were super supportive. So, in life, sometimes you end up having to fire people out of your life. And you just have to fire them or let them go. The first time you do it, it's really hard and painful. But then after that, every time it gets easier, and you just surround yourself by the people that you want. So now I just surround myself with people that support my vision and help me move forward instead of pulling me down. Yep.
The funny thing is, I have the same issue with my mom. One day she'll think I know what I'm doing, which will be great. Until then, it is what it is. However, I think here's what's bothering your mom right here is that when her friends ask her, "What does your son do?" she has no way of explaining it. She can't brag on her son, so she gets frustrated. She's like, give me. So I bet you if you give her a way to say, Mom, just tell him I do this. Tell him I'm a teacher. Oh, okay, cool. Now she has an answer for that question, and it won't irritate her as much. But because I struggle if people ask me, what do you do? A lot. We provide value in so many different ways. Now, when we met at the Online Info Summit, you had a lot to say about a character that I know many people, at least I assume many people were watching, and I would love for you to share some of that information, because I believe there are individuals right now who are listening who probably could be stuck in okay, once I just read one more book, then I'll get started. Or, you know what? I'll wait to Monday. I'll wait to the new year. I'll wait till XYZ happens before I get started. And you were very effective in your communication about explaining what that looked like, and most importantly, how you got yourself out of it.
Are you tired of letting good cash flow generating ideas go to waste? Go to cashflowdiary.com/ready to apply for a complimentary, yes, that means free, one-on-one breakthrough session. Take action now. Go to cashflowdiary.com/ready. Again, that's cashflowdiary.com/ready. Before we get back to today's episode of the Cashflow Diary podcast, your host, Jay Massey, has some important insights to share with you.
Okay. You know, guys, I still find myself bobbing my head to that song all the time, and I absolutely love it. All right. So a couple of things that I wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of. Many of you've gone over to cashflowdiary.com/ready because you want to have some one-on-one time. We are about to open the calendar if you have not done so, or you've been thinking about it. Now would be the time to go. It will be closing within a few hours of this particular episode. So if you've even remotely thought about it, now is the time to go. In the meantime, one of the things that I did want to announce is many of you probably would like to still get a copy of the book. And guess what? We are now doing a free book offer for you guys. So here's what you got to do. Go over to cashflowdiarybook.com, cashflowdiarybook.com. You pick up the shipping. Again, one price worldwide. Don't really care where it's going. We'll pick up the book, you pick up the shipping, and everybody will be happy all the way around. In fact, for a number of you, I know that you live in various different places across the world. Don't want you to have to wait for it to get there. We're also going to give you the ebook PDF download immediately once you've completed your purchase and given us the information that we need to send you the book. So hopefully you like that. In the meantime, let's get back to it.
Okay. I think some people say that you need to kind of fake it to make it. And I don't really believe in that. I think what ends up being more important is sometimes you need to put on the tights of your favorite superhero and become that superhero and have that superhero help you move to where you want to go. Now, for me, what I would do was my wife would go to work and I would leave the kitchen and go downstairs and work on my online business. So we had a nice hardwood floor, nice kitchen, all, some kind of wood that looks really nice that made my wife happy, but it's all nice. And then when the kids and my wife would go to work, I'd leave that nice main floor area and I would open the door to the basement. And the basement would move from this beautiful hardwood floor into this rough plywood, rough, cheap, utility grade plywood. And the stairs all the way down to the basement would be unfinished. Now, what would happen was when I passed that threshold from that beautifully smooth and nice hardwood floor, I would transform into a character. And that character that I would transform into would be Jack Bauer. So if you don't know who Jack Bauer is, he runs an awesome series called 24. You just watch all of them. And I would become Jack Bauer. So I would transform into Jack Bauer as I went down the stairs of this utility grade plywood, and I would go into the basement, and this cement floor basement, all uneven, stained spots with rust where water had dripped. Basement was unfinished. I blocked the windows with drapes so no one could see me. I closed the vents so it would be as cold as possible in the basement. And I would go into the corner. That's all that was in this basement was just my computer and chair. And I would sit down and I was Jack Bauer and I would battle the internet in order to reach my goal that I had of having this online business. And everyone was against me in succeeding. And if I didn't battle and fight back, the world would come to an end. Presidents would die, countries would collapse, economies would be destroyed. Any minute now, the SWAT team was going to come through the door and, take me away and take my family away. And there was absolute urgency that I had to take action, inhuman amount of action on the internet in order to succeed. And if I didn't succeed, my whole world would be destroyed. My whole country's world would be destroyed, and the earth would come to an end. And that's what I did. Every day I went down there and I just took action. And at the start, like I said, it was a complete explosion. I was all over the place. But with time, I've become more and more focused on that action. And for me, I focus on those 2 C's, connection and content.
Yeah, Jack Bauer. First time anyone has ever mentioned him in the form of a superhero, but I love it. Maybe he'll have a comic book soon. Who knows? All I know is when you said that, you had my attention. Now, you also mentioned about the knowledge collectors. And how you got yourself out of that particular situation. Because I know, especially in the real estate world, it's like, okay, cool, I'll write my first offer after I know this and that and this and all these other things. And it doesn't have to be that difficult, which when it comes to creating cash flow, how much did you know, knowing what you know today, how much did you really know about business before you were making that first product and offering it for sale?
I didn't know much. I didn't know much at all. I mean, I think it goes back to the Jack Bauer thing. A lot of people just don't have a high enough level of urgency to take action. And you either need to have it or you need to create it. And I know with your story, I mean, you were squatting in a foreclosed property. So you had a high level of urgency to take action or you would have kept going down.
Right.
So you took action and got out. And most people don't have that level of urgency. And you need to either have it around you or you need to end up creating it. And that's kind of I had a good life. I was doing kind of a good job. I was doing all right, but I wanted more. And I needed to create that level of urgency to take action. And realizing that you get paid for done. You don't get... You don't get paid for ideas. You don't get paid for thinking about it. You don't get paid for sitting. You get paid for done when things are done. And I think that happened with my very first product. It was a group of products, and I'd been working on this book, and it took like 2.5 years to get done. And just kind of was always like 80% done, bouncing around 70 to 80% done. And I'm like, man, I got to get this done so I can like make some money and see that this works. See if this actually works. Communicate with my little email list and see if people actually want this and buy it. And they wanted and they bought it and they bought a few of them. I think I made like $200 or something like that. I sold it, emailed it to my little list. And what I did was it wasn't 100% done yet. I emailed it out to my list, and it was like 90% done. And a bunch of people started buying. I'm like, holy cow. Guess what? Now I have to actually finish these products off. Because it's going to be more painful to tell these people that I don't have it done or refund their money. So that was a high level of urgency to get things done. And that's one thing that pushes me is like being accountable to other people. So that really pushes me to take action. So when I kind of put my word out there that I'm going to do something, it really pushes me to get it done. That's kind of one thing that pushes me forward. To get things done.
Well, what I like is, and here I'm just going to put you on notice. I'll give you credit for like 2 or 3 times on the you get paid for done. But by that 4th time, it's gonna be from me. But that one that is so immensely true. And fortunately or unfortunately, I don't care either way you look at it, that is something that I learned through the real estate side of things, because you don't get, if you're rehabbing a property, no one's going to live there until you're done. Mm-hmm. And when you're done, then you get paid for it. And the same thing here when you're talking about, creating a product or a service business, whatever it is that you're doing, you don't get paid until it's done. And that's when you have that opportunity to keep, making new things happen, which is great. The point is paid for done. You don't get paid for almost done, well, unless you start selling it, and then you got to get it done, which is definitely a technique we have employed more than once to get us focused and make things happen. But at the end of the day, you get paid for done, not how much you know. You can know a lot about a subject, but until you actually present that information and package your information and knowledge out there into the marketplace to provide value to someone else, well, you just don't get paid yet. And so in that process, though, I find that a lot of people quit way too early. And that's what they quit before it's done and they go, it didn't work. Is that something that you've experienced at least once?
Well, yeah. I mean, someone had mentioned this. I'm trying to remember who. But
I told you it goes back to the first 3 times. It's them. The 4th time, it's yours. I told you. That's why. It's like, you're not going to remember.
I think Sylvester Stallone had a movie, I think it was called Cliffhanger. And this kind of like how business is. You're like, you're climbing up this mountain, and then it gets steeper and steeper, and it reaches a point where it almost becomes vertical. And then instead of it becoming vertical, it like almost goes like negative incline, like 45 degrees. Most people quit when they hit that wall. Most people don't climb the wall. And then even more people quit when it's actually going the other way and you're like upside down climbing. But if you get around that, you get to the top and you succeed. And most people quit when they hit the wall. They're like, oh, it's a wall. Very few climb the wall, and then even fewer climb that cliff part. And if you climb that cliff part and get around and on top, there's success.
Indeed. It's awesome to make those things happen. So let me ask this. When it comes to, because I know for myself, I was in a car accident a few years ago, back injuries, those types of things. How on earth do you go from serving people one-on-one? Because physical therapy, or at least that pain and injury type of medicine that I've experienced, has been very one-on-one, in-person-ish. But yet, Antarctica, it's still in my head, because that's like, help me bridge that gap, because oftentimes we don't necessarily, we think we have an idea, and this is where I'm going with this. When we all, we start a business, we think of an idea, we think of a problem that we can solve, and we think we know who the customer is. I'm going to guess that you never anticipated having a customer in an Antarctica. And I'm just curious to know how, that developed for you. Is what you have today the same thing you envisioned back when Jack Bauer and you were fighting the internet?
It's good. Did I have that exact vision? I always, when I started out, I always thought of, or the thing that always kind of drove me when it came to the freedom, I don't really care about buying stuff. When it comes to my neighbors and my kids' school, a lot of times I just go out in my pajamas. And so I don't really care, what I end up wearing. And I don't care about buying stuff. But, since I was the boss, it was okay for me to wear pajamas to work. Wow, no one else can wear pajamas to work. Now, I always wanted to, everything kind of revolved around, I want to do what I wanted when I wanted. And that's when I started out. That's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to have control, do whatever I want, whenever I want, wherever I want. So I wanted a business that I could run anywhere. And it's really cool running it on an airplane. That was really neat. Running your business on an airplane, or you're on holidays in like England and you're running your business, making sure the trains are running properly. And trains are running properly. You close your laptop and you go. You can buy whatever you want. You do whatever you want. Oh, it'd be cool to go do this. Cool to do that. So it always kind of revolved around that. Now, am I where I'm at where I wanted to be? In some ways, yes, because one place I always wanted to move to was the Okanagan, which is where I live now. So when I was down in the dungeon with Jack Bauer, I always wanted to move from Vancouver and go to the Okanagan Valley, which is kind of like the Napa Valley of the North, and live there. And that happened in July. I moved up here. Now I have a beautiful home, and I'm where I wanted to move to. And I kind of worked on that for years, since like 91. I don't know, 95, I wanted to move up here. So it's been neat to actually happen 20 years later that I got here and I moved here. Now, did I ever envision that I would be able to help thousands of people in like 137 countries, including Antarctica? I never realized the reach that I would be able to get, which just blew me away. Now, right. It kind of goes back to, it almost goes back to the over-education of people. And I think, the medical system, what it's done is it's taken power away from people and made people dependent on other people, which I don't think is the case, because the person that can heal, repair, dig themselves out of a hole the best is you. No one else can do it. Going to someone and having them tell you what to do or help or do it for you, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So my advice always is, hey, go to a specialist, get them to rule out anything crazy, because there ends up being a mental side to it when it comes to pain and injuries. You're like, oh, is this going to be worse? Is there something more underlying? Well, go see someone and get the okay, or get them to find that there's something more serious that needs to be taken care of and more aggressively dealt with, or get them to tell you the okay, you're fine, this is what you got to do. Listen to that advice and go home and do it. And that's where I step in. Most people end up becoming dependent upon someone, or they quit. And I end up helping them when they kind of like, okay, what do I do now? And I empower and educate and give them a roadmap on what they can do to get out of pain and injury so they can go back to that life that they want. Now, when I started out, I didn't think people would want a book on this or they would want books on this. But I knew when I was working with people, when I would go to the gym, people would ask me, oh, Rick, I got this shoulder thing. What are exercises should I do or not do? And the darn question happening over and over again. And I couldn't answer it personally, one-on-one forever. I was going to be limited. I was going to be limited on how many people I can help. So I was like, okay, let's talk into a camera and put it on tape. Way back then it was tape. Now it's digital. and then, then it's like, okay, transcribe it, put it into words, look at it, write it out, put some pictures in it, and see if someone would buy it. And I did, and someone bought it, and I had this occupational therapist buy it. And she came to me and she said, Rick, your book was great. It's helped me out so much, helped me personally, and it's helped a whole bunch of my clients. And I was like, this might actually work. So I wrote more books, and more people came back, and Rick, this was super helpful for me. It's helped me with this, that, and the other. I'm like, awesome, I'll write more books. And I just kept writing and helping more people, and it's just kind of snowballed.
Nice, and that's the whole point. I mean, we always have a plan and we think how something is going to go, and you don't really know until you go out there and try to sell it, and you get some feedback, and you don't know the impact you're having. I don't know. I'm still realizing and understanding. It's like, oh my gosh, how do people across like you said, 137 different countries, how does this happen?
I don't know, man.
I haven't been able, right now, I haven't been able to figure out. There's something that we've done that has helped a lot of people in the United Kingdom, because we have a number of people who acquire our stuff from I'm just like, what? I don't even understand why. I just know that they are, and I'm just like, okay, that's interesting to me. Cool. It's a very interesting journey that I think we're all on, and I love the fact that even though you exercise, you're a genius in many different ways in your particular niche. There's so many ways to exercise our genius, and you've definitely done a good job with that. So for those that are wanting to track you down, and either they've got that aching pain in their back or somewhere, or they just want to say, let me see what this guy's business really looks like, how can they find out more information from you?
I mean, the best place to go to see what I do is if you go to my hub, my primary site, which is called exercisesforinjuries.com. Now, with me, I don't have a business card, and people always ask me for a business card. All I do is I send them to my website, exercisesforinjuries.com, and you can see what I do. You can see if you like me, you can see my goofy and informative videos, and that ends up being my hub. But when it comes to a business side of it, the magic happens in the back end of things. So what you see is part of the picture, but the full picture happens in the back end.
You got that right. And the funny thing is I don't have a business card either. So I find that interesting. So is there anything, Rick, that you would like to share with that person who's probably going right now, you know what? I need to do something. I need to get started. You know, maybe Jack Bauer is free right now and I can borrow him for a minute. What would you say to that person who's sitting there wondering, should I, shouldn't I? What do I need to do next?
Try to get a small victory and build on that small victory. You might not be able to go out there and buy a cellular phone tower. You might not be able to go out there and buy a humongous shopping mall right off the bat. But you might be able to go out there and buy something small and get a little win. It might be a small condo or something that isn't super risky to start off with. But if you get that little win, and build on that little win. Just like with me, that occupational therapist that bought my book and then let me know how much it's helped her and her clients was my small win. And then I wanted more of those wins. And who doesn't want more wins and more winning in their life? So really, stop learning more stuff. You know enough, and try to get a small win and build on those small wins. And you'll be amazed at what you'll accomplish. You'll accomplish way more than a Super Bowl or anything. You'll be amazed at what you can accomplish building on those wins.
Nice. Excellent, sir. Thank you for making an immense deposit into the Cashflow Diary audience. It was fun having you and hearing you one more time.
No worries.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It is time for you to move at the speed of instruction. What does that mean today? That means go over to Exercises for Injuries, especially if you have an injury. You want to go over there and make that happen because he definitely can help you, even if you live in Antarctica, because we've heard that today. I'm sitting here wondering, how on earth do you send anything to Antarctica? I wonder, do they have a zip code? Does anybody know? Anyway, that's not the point. I'm glad that you guys were here today. Thanks for listening. I look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.